Shalom, shalom. Amen. First and foremost, I want to say call hello, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushua, Bashim, Rakak, Wadash. Send double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Send much peace, love, and salutations to you. I came out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushua, and sincerity and truth. The brother Ariala. And this is going to be another edition of the Path to the Motb / World War III algo. And it's really a response to the lesson that the elder apostle Tahar did earlier today. He was just going in on Revelation, the 17th chapter, talking about different geopolitical and geoeconomic events and showing you through the prophecy how we're right there at the end. Like, pretty much all we got left is the Motb to roll out and the War of Armageddon and the Lord returning. I mean, we're pretty much here, man. We're pretty much here. And if you haven't watched this lesson, of course, you know, you want to watch all the videos that the apostles are putting out. They are constantly putting out work. Brothers all across the world are constantly putting out work. But this particular lesson, man, it'll pump you up, man. It'll pump you up in the spirit, okay? So, because he touches on several different topics, but the one I want to lean in on, which was absolutely fascinating to me, is the issue that's going on with gold right now. Now, Apostle Hart basically showing you how gold prices is absolutely skyrocketing right now. Now, anybody that follows gold or understands how gold and silver work in the markets, you know that it's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against volatility and uncertainty in the market. And it's usually when these prices are skyrocketing like this, it's a precursor to war, to pestilence, to basically them trying to reset something. Basically, what we see is that the elites are stacking as much gold as possible because they understand that something is getting ready to come down the pipeline. And they're stacking this gold so damn fast that we're reaching unprecedented prices for gold bullion. I mean, this thing is about to hit 3,000, a record level. Never touched these levels ever in the history of mankind has it touched these levels. And I'm gonna play a little bit of what Apostle Tahar said, and then go through a couple of news articles, clips, and some scripture. But it really just highlights that we are right at the edge of something, man. As a matter of fact, I'll start off with this scripture, Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. It says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." Things are moving at warp speed, lightning, warp speed. I've been, in this truth, we came in 2007. Apostles, bishops, elders have been teaching for decade upon decade. For my time that I've been here, man, hey, Trump doing the damn thing, man. Trump is doing the damn thing. I mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love some Trump, man. He's killing it. He's moving fast. That's why Apostle Hart was going in on Revelation, the 17th chapter, because he's moving with such pride and with such rash moves to basically try to make America seem like this big bad wolf amongst all the nations, that he's isolating himself from his supposed allies. Europe is pissed. All right. They don't understand what he's doing over there in Ukraine with Russia. They don't understand what he's doing with his monetary policies with the tariffs, his relationship with Putin. They're like, what the hell is going on? So the those that are Confederate are just starting to be like, what the hell? But I want to hinge in on this gold thing and talk about this for a second. Hold on, let me pull the chat up just in case somebody wants to post something. Okay, and bear with me, man. I'm dealing with some sinus issues. Okay. Right now out here in Texas, the temperature done dropped down to goddamn. It's under 20 degrees out here with a wind chill of like -5. You know, we don't really deal with all that like that. So I'm all jacked up. But let me play this.
It went back down. And look at this.
Speed it up just a little bit so we.
Okay, 2016. Okay, this is 2022. In a couple of years, it doubled. It almost just about doubled.
Look at that.
Look at that. It says 2,900. It's actually 2,900. Let's round it off to 35. So it's like $65 from 3,000. It's never been $3,000. So these investors that invested around about here, 1,200, you more than doubled your money. You more than, if you're a multi-millionaire, billionaire, you purchase, let's say 1 million ounces of gold. You good. You good.
Mm-hmm. Now,
remember, if you go back to
if they hold the actual physical, because right now they're saying that, you know, basically they've given out all of these gold notes, paper notes, and that when the people go to get their gold, they're not going to be able to get it because it's not there. Okay, but on paper, if you, just like the apostle said, if you was a multi-billionaire and you would have went in and said, okay, well, we want $200 million worth of gold, right? And you bought in when it dipped at the bottom, you over doubled your money in a couple of years. For gold, that is absolutely insanity. That's showing you something's up, something's going on. Now, in the news, what Apostle Hart was saying, because this was a premiere, and he posted that Elon Musk basically was being asked or tasked to potentially audit the U.S. gold reserves. Okay, to see how much the United States has in their gold reserves, to see maybe if they need to do this or do that with the gold reserves. But basically, it's putting the nation on alert that, hey, you know, we need to make sure that we have our we're stored up, we're stocked up and stockpiled. Now, when you look it up, they say that it's supposed to be like over 2,000 something tons of gold, and it's supposed to be worth over like 400 to 500 billion, I believe. That's in Fort Knox. We'll have to see.
This morning to talk about going for the gold. Elon Musk and Doge setting their sights on the country's largest gold reserve, Fort Knox in Kentucky, as its own senator reveals that $425 billion of a gold supply doesn't even get a yearly review. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul joins us now. So, Senator, I didn't know it was that much money there, and I was even more surprised that there's been no review.
Well, you know, I've been trying to go down and see the gold, make sure it's all there for about 10 years during the first Trump administration.
Now, just for the sake of practical sense, if you had $425 billion worth of gold stored up somewhere, wouldn't you want to check and make sure it was good every now and then? Wouldn't you? But they're saying that the United States ain't they don't ever check it.
I got permission. You have to get permission all the way up to the Secretary of Treasury. And then the Secretary of Treasury said, well, I want to go down there too. And then he said, I want to go down there when the eclipse is coming through Kentucky too, so I can see the eclipse and the gold at the same time. But they came when I wasn't there. So I tried for 10 years. I set up the appointment. And then because they wanted to see the eclipse, they changed the appointment. I didn't get to go down. But the Secretary of Treasury and the senior senator from Kentucky did go down and attest that they believe they saw the gold down there.
So what do you think the problem is?
You know, I think some of them may not think it needs to be audited all the time, but I think the more sunlight, the better, more transparency, the better. Yeah. And also it brings attention to the fact that gold still has value, and implicitly, not explicitly, but implicitly, gold still gives value to the dollar. Yeah. That's why we don't get rid of it. You know, we've got it. The IMF has it. The World Bank has it. Most of the central banks around the world have gold, and it's an implicit trust that the dollar still has some backing.
So, Senator,
Yeah, so basically it's an implicit trust to say that we got all these US dollars that we're printing, but hey man, we're a wealthy ass nation. Check this out. We got $425 billion worth of gold just sitting here. You know, we don't even check it. We rich. You know, and then also the value, that's why they call gold God's money. Because throughout you know, millennia, gold has always been a standard of wealth and opulence. And so right now, what we see is unprecedented buying from central bankings all around the world. They're buying up gold. Okay. All right. And so the question is, why? What's going on? You know, that question is coming up. And so you got this guy, Elon Musk, all up in the White House, all up in Washington, going through the books, looking at where they're wasting money, seeing where fraud is happening. You know, showing people where, look, man, we've been paying people that's 200 years old Social Security payments. You know, that we're wasting billions and billions. So everything is being checked, everything's being brought out and audited. And the scripture said that will happen. You know, Psalm 64:8 says, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. You see? So people are starting to find out all the BS that's going on with America, with the American government. And they're intentionally doing this to create distrust of the American government, distrust of the American systems. Why? Because they want to justify the new systems that they're getting ready to roll in. And they have to do the same thing with the dollar. Okay, so if you're holding your dollar and the economy is inflating, meaning you have a dollar and you're able to get so much food for that dollar, but then the next day you take that same dollar and you get less. But if you had gold, you could have got this amount of food, and then the next day you could have got more food if you was holding gold. So they're creating distrust in the fundamental status quo aspects of Western society on the human governmental level, okay, on a governmental political level, then also in the economic level. And they're doing it not just with gold, they're also doing it with Bitcoin, which they call digital gold. This is why you see people hedging their dollar values into gold and into cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, right? Because what's happening to the price of Bitcoin is ridiculously going up. The price of gold is ridiculously going up. If you would have put your money into Bitcoin a few years back, your investment would have doubled. If you put your money in gold a few months back, your investment would have doubled. So people are like, you know, they're getting out of the fiat and going into these reserves. I'm gonna play a little bit more, then I got another clip.
I want to switch gears with you. I want to talk about since we're talking about money, the GOP budget resolution that is apparently in jeopardy over concern from the moderates as well as Democrats about the budget. Talk about it. I mean, you are your father's son. And so I know you've had these objections to it. What are they now?
Well, this year, the deficit's going to be $2.2 trillion. In March, both parties will come back and probably spend $300 billion more in California for wildfires, and it will be borrowed, not paid for. We just spent another $100 billion in North Carolina. It never seems to end, and we don't borrow it. So what I would say is for border, if you want money for the border, take it from somewhere else in the budget, but let's don't have a new spending bill. So this budget is setting up a new spending bill, and ultimately this year there'll be a $2.2 trillion, and people will be scratching their head saying, what about all the cuts? What about all the things? The Doge committee, Elon Musk has found billions of dollars. The way you save money, and it has to be done, is they send it back to Congress in something called a rescission package, and then we vote on it with a simple majority. So Republicans alone can cut the spending that Doge is finding, but they're doing a great job, and they're going through it with rapidity, but it's got to come back to Congress. If I started seeing that, I might be more inclined to go along with them.
I'm almost out of time, but I got to quickly ask you, why aren't you in the room? Because as I've said, you haven't changed your position. You're still reasonable, though. You understand you're not going to get everything. I believe your support of a bill would get some of the folks in the House. You'll get Chippewa, you'll get Thomas Massa's support if you were involved in the negotiation. So,
boom. So, they're basically revising it, looking at all the money, they're showing all the fraud. Like I said, they're just showing it. If we need to clean up this, we need to clean up all these errors that's going on in the government. The U.S. dollar is inflating like crazy. We need to have a strategic reserve of gold. We need to have a strategic reserve of cryptocurrencies. Their values are going up. We're going to go digital. We're going to get out of these systems. And they're showing you, and they're just putting it into everybody's face that these systems are archaic. They're old. They don't work. We don't have any ways to really check them. We can't trust them. This is how they're leading into the Motb. Okay? But check this out. Check this out, man. And then this has always been the plans. This has always been kind of what they want to roll out. All right.
Happening in the gold market, and no one is talking about it. We've known that central banks have been stockpiling gold, preparing for a currency reset, but now suddenly Wall Street is hoarding physical gold. So the question is, what do they know that we don't, and what are they preparing for? In case you missed it, this past week, a scandal has rocked the Bank of England, where the wait time to withdraw gold has jumped from a few days to a few months, essentially a bank run, but with gold. But that's not all. At the same time that this has been happening, the gap has been widening between spot and future prices of gold, which hasn't been seen since 2020 when the system nearly collapsed. And yet we're being told that there's nothing to see here, just logistical issues and tariff concerns. But if that were true, it still wouldn't explain the widening price gap and why Wall Street is hoarding gold like something big is about to happen, which means they know something we don't.
And we understand that they're getting ready to come into a whole new digital reset. This is what they've been talking about at the WEF. This is what they talked about at the World Summit. And you see the indications of them buying this physical gold and taking it out the market to where you can't even get access to it for months when you put your call in for your physical. All right. They do stuff behind the scenes. And then when the regular layman tries to catch up, it's already too late. Okay. That's why in Psalm 64, if you go up in verse 2, it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongues like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. And so they get up there, they tell you that everything is okay. They say, these are just small issues, but the whole meanwhile, they're churning and they're moving forward with the agenda that the Most High has put inside of them to do, which is to bring along perdition, bring along destruction. But check this out.
They're preparing now. It means we probably should be preparing too. So let's get into it. The first thing to understand is that when we hear about the spot price of gold on the news, it's usually based on the COMEX, or the New York Commodity Exchange. But much like our wonderful, trustworthy banking system, COMEX operates on a fractional reserve system, meaning there is far more paper gold, aka contracts and derivatives, based on gold than there is actual physical gold in its vaults. I will spare you a rant about how this allows big banks to flood the market with paper contracts that they never intend to deliver on, thereby suppressing the price of gold, but understand that they make it look like there's far more gold available than there actually is. And normally this game works because most traders don't take delivery of their gold, but here's where this gets messy. First, the shortage at the Bank of England. Gold withdrawals that used to take days are now taking months, meaning that they either don't have enough gold available or there was a sudden massive demand for gold withdrawals, neither of which inspire confidence. Now, we know that they shipped a massive amount of their gold to the COMEX vaults in New York, which are seeing a massive spike in holdings. In fact, since November, COMEX inventory of real gold has jumped by 75%.
75% is a ridiculously insane number. 5%, 10%, 17%, that's a lot. But for it to go up 75%, this is a major indicator that something is up. These large elite institutions are not just trickling in some gold. They're massively buying it up. Physical gold. Something is up. This should get you excited. This should get you saying, This is why when I was watching Apostle Tahar's stream, I was just like, oh shit. Okay. We are extremely close to something. Something is getting ready to pop off. All right. We are very, very close to something, man. Let's keep watching.
Which is huge. Now, supposedly, the reason for this is that traders are looking to avoid tariffs, which could make sense until you look at the price spread. Gold spot price is what gold costs right now immediately per ounce versus gold futures, which is an agreed upon price for gold at a future date. Now, normally the spread between these two prices is only a few dollars, but recently this gap has been widening to 40 plus, which might not sound like a lot, but here's why this is a huge deal. If the futures price is that much higher than spot, then traders in theory should be making risk-free profit by buying gold at spot and selling it in futures. But the reason that they're not is because they don't have the confidence that the gold will be delivered. And here's where it gets even more bizarre.
All right, so just so you can understand it, typically this is an opportunity in the market called arbitrage. So you have a gold spot price, let's just say, to keep the number simple, it's $2,000. But then you have a futures contract that's $2,050. So what a trader would do is buy the spot price and then turn right back around and sell, all right, the future and get the future. Boom, easy profit, easy flip. Thanks. But people are just holding because they're like, nah, bro, I ain't with that future. Look, I'm holding. I'm holding, which is a big indicator that something's getting ready to go down. Okay.
COMEX just had one of its largest delivery months in history, with over $5 billion worth of gold being delivered, an amount typically only seen in major months, not minor ones, which January historically is. And instead of delivery slowing down as the month went on, they accelerated, with net new contracts being bought and settled for delivery all month long, something we almost never see. It could be that there's an entity that is quietly accumulating massive amounts of gold on Wall Street. But that's where things take an even more interesting turn, because some are speculating that these mystery buyers or buyer aren't just accumulating gold to hedge risk, but they're actually intentionally pushing COMEX to the breaking point. Think about it. If COMEX struggled to meet delivery demand, the entire paper gold system would be exposed as fraudulent, and it would reset the price of gold to true supply and demand, which would send prices skyrocketing. Now, the last time we even saw something close to this was in...
Okay, so, all right, so just to understand what she's saying, you got paper gold, which all of these certificate contracts of paper gold, saying, okay, I'm buying this gold. I'm not going to actually receive the gold. I'm just going to receive a certificate saying that it's worth this amount of gold, just like fractional reserve banking. You know, a bank only has a fraction of, what it says that it has reserved in there. Now, if it gets completely exposed and they say, hey, you know what? The actual supply of the gold is way less than the demand that's out there with all these people holding all these certificates. We got way less. When you have limited supply and you have massive demand, what happens to prices? the price goes up. Like I said, if I have 1,000 pair of Jordans and there's only 100 people that want them, then I'm gonna have to sell them for cheap. Okay. But if I have 1,000 pair of Jordans, but 1 million people want them 1,000 pair of Jordans, right? The price gonna be high. That's what's getting ready to happen to gold. Why is this happening? Because they want these nations know and understand something getting ready to go down. I don't give a damn. I'm finna just accumulate this physical. I'm not gonna play around in the market with this paper. I understand something is actually happening. Okay.
In 2020, gold demand was up and banks, go figure, got reckless with their paper gold gambling, creating way too many contracts that they did not have the physical gold to back it up, flooding the market, and suddenly the world shut down. So of course they didn't actually have the physical gold to back the contracts, and suddenly the spot and futures price spread exploded to over $100. But by the skin of their teeth, they were able to do emergency deliveries and through some magic avoided complete collapse. But here's the difference. Back then, the logistical crisis made sense. Today, it doesn't. So what's really going on? Well, we know for a fact that gold is being stockpiled at Wall Street in record numbers. We know that there's some kind of mystery entity or entities who are buying it up as much as they can get. And we know that this tariffs excuse does not account for everything, all this strange activity that we're seeing. So what does that leave us with? Well, we know the obvious answer, that as trust in the U.S. financial system and the dollar continue.
Now, when you listen to these pundits, they don't come from a prophetic view. So they're not going to go down the avenue of the issuance of the Motb. They're not going to go down the avenue that we see in the prophecies concerning why would they want to be hoard these physicals and this physical gold and kind of, shore up themselves with impending doom and perilous times that's coming. We understand that there's more, Micah 2:1 says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. She talked about these unknown entities that are just buying up all this gold. So it says, woe unto them that devise iniquity upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And that's what they do, man. As they get prepared to roll on the world, and especially you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all right, as they get prepared to roll on the world, man, they're making sure that they got this, they got that in the background, they got this, and this is okay, and that is okay, They're making sure. Now, this is something that they've been rolling out in the background for a minute. There was actually a policy that was put out called the Basel III Endgame. Y'all see this? This is actually what it's called, the Basel III Endgame. That they wanted central banks to start shoring up their books after the jab and everything went down with the last collapse. No, maybe this goes all the way back to 2008, if I remember correctly, right? But it's crazy that they called it end game. When you look at end game, it says the final stage of a game, such as chess or bridge or a piece of card, but it's more than that, right? It's the end game of this financial system. It's them really, really getting ready to come into that Motb, NWO system that they want to go into. Okay, this is why you see them moving the way they moving. This is why you see Trump and the moving at warp speed. Let me play this.
A quiet but powerful shift in the global financial system is happening, and most people have no idea. Basel III Endgame, a set of banking regulations that look like routine risk management on the surface, may actually be setting the stage for something much bigger. Is this just about stabilizing banks, or is this laying the foundation for a massive monetary reset, one that puts gold back at the center of the system. If that's the case, what exactly is Basel III? How will it impact gold? And most importantly, what impact will this massive shift have on your savings, your wealth, and the future of money as we know it? Let's get into it. Basel III is off.
You see how these Edomites, they really think they just gonna be free. They think they're gonna have their gold, and they prepared till they have their gold, and whenever this reset happens, they're just gonna go trade in their gold for whatever. No, man, no. They'll use gold, they'll use a basket of cryptocurrencies, and they'll use other so-called assets to justify their digital financial plan. And all the individual nations will do it, but they'll all be linked into the same system. All right. That's why all the nations are buying gold. All of them are doing all this stuff with stable coins and CBDCs and digital blockchain technology. All of them are moving to AI governance in the same systems, no matter where you're at, whether it's the US, whether it's South America, South Asia, Russia, they're all moving towards the same thing. You know, that's what they're doing. Okay. And so, like I said earlier, yeah, our salvation is now when people are getting the gold, whether it's gold or whatever it is decreasing. It's decreasing confidence in the fiat because they're trying to move away from fiat. They're trying to move away from analog to full digital systems, AI digital governance.
Often framed as a set of global banking regulations created in the wake of the 2008 Great Financial Crisis as a way to make banks safer. But it's not all that it appears to be. In fact, there are a lot more questions than answers. These regulations were masterminded at the very top at the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, a secretive group that we don't know that much about. Often referred to as the central bank for central banks, they operate out of Switzerland and dictate global regulations for banks across the world, even here in the United States. But let's be real.
Yeah, so all the central banks across the world have to link in with the Bank of International Settlements. I did a algorithm on this some time ago. I can't remember if Rokaria Kwame and the bros from London took a trip up there. But yeah, this bank is basically a international regulatory bank for how all these different central banks have to deal with each other. This is how they get all the same game plans. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's China or if it's Spain. They're all getting their regulatory systems from the same groups. That's the Bank of International Settlements. Okay. Now, the Bank of International Settlements put something out called the Basel III Endgame. It's funny, man. I love it.
But let's be real. Do we really think that this elite group of regulators didn't realize that banks were over-leveraged until after 2008? That the same institutions that helped aid these banks' reckless behaviors are now suddenly prioritizing all of our safety? Or are they doing it in their own self-interest? Big picture, Basel III requires the banks hold more high-quality assets to prevent liquidity crisis, reduce risky lending practices, and ensure that banks are more prepared for any kind of financial shock. But the devil is in the details, and here is the part that nobody is talking about. Basel III changes the way that gold is treated in the banking system. And when you start following the gold, you realize that these changes might not be about preventing the next crisis. They are about preparing for the next crisis. Let me explain. For decades, gold has been considered a tier 3 asset, meaning that banks had to discount its value on their accounting sheets, treating it as a risky asset. But now gold is reclassified as a tier 1 asset, meaning that banks can account for 100% of its value on their balance sheets, treating it the same as cash and US treasuries. This is a game changer because in the past, if gold prices went up, it did not impact central banks that much. But now, for the first time in decades, gold prices going up significantly hugely benefits central banks. By making gold a tier 1 asset, Basel III is also forcing a shift away from paper gold ETFs, and gold futures contracts and towards physical gold, meaning physical, tangible gold will be at the center of this new financial system. Because one of the most important rules in Basel III is their net stable funding ratio, the NSFR, which essentially makes it much harder to suppress real gold values with paper gold contracts. I've talked about this before, but real quick for those of you that are new here, the spot price of gold that you read about in the news is actually much lower than it should be if true supply and demand were in charge. Essentially, the COMEX and the LBMA, they operate on a fractional reserve system, the same way banks do. Think about your deposit in a bank. They don't keep 100% of that deposit, they keep a small fraction, but there's an illusion that they have 100% of the deposits in their holding. The same thing happens in the gold market. They make multiple paper claims, gold ETFs, gold futures contracts, on the same piece of physical gold, meaning that they are able to artificially suppress the price of gold by.
So now we're in this age of transparency where supposedly now these people who are getting up in government are letting the people know what's really going on, right? And what that does is collapse the system, collapse trust in the system. And once that trust is through the floor, it'll justify them doing something new. And also what it'll do is create absolute chaos, right? So if they start to bring out the truth about this, where gold is at, everything will fall apart, man. It'll all fall apart. Okay?
Creating all this paper when in reality, the amount of physical gold they have is far less. Last year alone, the LME did trillions of dollars in paper gold trade on unallocated metals. So even as true demand for gold rose, the price didn't accurately reflect that because they suppressed it with the amount of paper trades that were going on. But Basel III is changing the game. Under the new rules, banks must hold physical gold. There can no longer be this huge reliance on unallocated contracts. The system is crumbling in live time. Look at what just happened last week in London.
This is not the system crumbling. This is a controlled demolition. What's going to crumble is how people interact with each other and as they go to war. Because what's happening with the way that the Most High is putting it into the minds of men is these policies that they all have agreed upon, people are still vying for power. That's why Trump is acting the way he's acting. And it's destroying the relationships. Okay, so the actual economic system is having a controlled demolition, but what's going to be chaotic is how these nations deal with each other. Okay, how they deal with each other and how it all just crumbles and falls apart. Okay, you know, it's not going to go well with them. This is Habakkuk 2:5 in the NLT. Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed up many peoples. We read about this in Revelation, the 17th chapter. But soon their captors will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, "What sorrow awaits you, thieves? And now you will get what you deserve. You've become rich by extortion. But how much longer can this go on? Suddenly your debtors will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have, while you stand trembling and helpless, because you have plundered many nations. Now all the survivors will plunder you. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. What sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly?" Right? Because let's be like that's how America gained its wealth, right? Through chattel slavery, rape, robbery, and murder, right? Unjust balances and weights, usury, and fraud. Okay? It says, what sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly? You believe your wealth will buy security, but your family's nest, putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger. But the murders you committed, you have shamed your name and forfeited your lives. You see? The very stones in the walls cry out against you, and the beams in the ceilings echo the complaint. What sorrow awaits you who build cities with money gained through murder and corruption? So, there is no hope for this place as they hoard this gold, they hoard this wealth, they get ready to, they do secret councils just so they can, switch over to the Motb systems. But the Most High's got that target on their back. And he's going to make it to where all these nations really just fight each other. They're going to squabble up. Squabble up. Squabble up. Right? Obadiah 1:1, it says, thus saith the Lord power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that amongst these nations. I mentioned in the last lesson how Canada and Finland was booing the United States anthem, causing them to fight at the beginning of the hockey game. Well, all these nations, they don't respect America like that. They disrespect America. They don't like America. Not just Canada and Finland. That's a worldwide sentiment. Okay? Verse 3 says this, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? And it's not just Edomites that are in America. When these other nations, like go look in South Africa with those Dutch, Edomites that are in South Africa. The people, them Hamites hate them, man. Same way with people from Hawaii. They hate Edomites. Okay? All around the world, man. All around the world, so-called white people, Edomites, are despised because of their pride. All right? So as they get ready to, collapse this economy and shift into a reset into the next digital age, the chaos is going to come from people fighting against one another. Okay? That's how, because these nations really, economically, as far as what they're trying to do, the elites has all these governments really in agreement. They're all moving towards a digital Motb infrastructure and system, but they still gonna squabble up. Verse 4 says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Right? If these came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Nope. He's gonna get wiped out. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. See? Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and the understanding out of Esau? So there's not going to be any predictability because of pride, arrogancy, and a haughty spirit. Esau is just going to keep rolling along, right? And ensnare himself in his own pride and arrogancy. But we'll play a little bit more on this, and then we'll close out.
London with the Bank of England, unable to make their gold demands. The veil is being lifted on this system that has been suppressing gold prices.
And you know that scripture, Isaiah 47, right? The veil is being lifted. The skirt's being lifted.
to make their gold demands. The veil is being lifted on this system that has been suppressing gold prices, and everyone is starting to wake up and realizing it. At the same time, central banks are buying gold in record numbers, especially over the last 3 years. Why? Because they know what's coming. Here are the top 3 reasons that they are buying gold. Number 1, a protection against currency instability. As global debt reaches unsustainable levels and trust in fiat currencies is completely shattered, it is gold that will act as a true hedge against inflation, a true safeguard against devaluation. Number 2, a shift towards a multipolar currency or neutral settlement currency world. As China and Russia and BRICS alliance nations work together to move away from the dollar that has been weaponized against them, gold is neutral. It doesn't speak one language. It's not affiliated with one country. It transcends all politics and acts as universal true money. And most importantly, the big picture, number 3, central banks are buying gold because they are preparing for a new monetary system. As number 1 and number 2 come to fruition and the fiat system that we know today collapses, these banks are going to be leaning on their hard assets. They are going to need gold as a way to set themselves up in the new system, because every major monetary shift in history has had gold at the heart of it. And this time will be no different. But this is not just about central banks. This impacts all of us. So how close are we? Where are we in the timeline? Well, Basel III has been rolling out for over a decade. That being said, the final stages of preparation were enacted on January 1st, 2023, which is interesting because if you look at the spot price of gold, which we know has been suppressed, even with the suppression from January 1st, 2023 to today, that spot price has dropped.
Oh, bro, look, bro. This is ridiculous. Yo, it's going down. It is going down. Anybody that hold gold knows that this is ridiculous. It's going down, bro. It's going down. They getting ready to move. They getting ready to move, bro. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Jumped over 60%, and it's no secret why. The rest of the world is laying the foundation for this transition. However, the United States is actually lagging behind and are not expected to complete a full transition until 2028, with the transitionary period kicking off this year, July 1st, 2025. So why the holdup? Well, there's a couple of theories. One of them is that the United States understands that the sooner that Basel III goes into effect, the sooner
everybody's watching the United States and what the United States is doing. So the United States has the lag because it's at the forefront. Okay. All right, he's like, get everybody in the car, get everything packed, and Daddy gonna get in the car. We know we leaving once he get in the car. Once he get in that driver's seat, we gone. We gone. And they're gonna go ahead and collapse everything, man. Go ahead.
Sooner that the dollar loses its standing as the global reserve currency, which it cannot afford to lose. Think about it. Basel III forces banks to treat gold as a tier 1 asset, the same as cash. This absolutely could disrupt a dollar-dominated world where confidence is based on debt, derivatives, and fiat-backed assets. The US has a lot to lose as gold's role expands because it threatens dollar supremacy. Now, another theory that people think could happen is that the US is just buying time for the next few years, getting a plan B in place. Many are pointing to even recent comments from last week, the US Treasury Secretary talking about monetizing US assets. Many are pointing to this clip and saying that is about gold.
within the next 12 months, we're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet.
But no matter what the cause for delay, we know one thing for sure. The rest of the world is moving forward towards gold, especially BRICS nations. They are preparing for this transition, and anyone who is not preparing for this transition is going to get left behind. So what does this mean for you and I? Well, number one, pay attention to the elite, those in power, those who know something that we don't, because if central banks are stockpiling gold, it is for a reason.
The only thing gold and silver, that's not going to save us in that time, man. And that's what these people don't understand. Gold and silver is not going to save you in that time. The only thing that's going to save you is if you're of the elect, is if you're covered by the name of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Because what's getting ready to come is absolute mayhem and destruction. Okay? We're moving headlong into absolute mayhem, World War III, like we read when we first started. It's an inevitability. You ain't gonna be able to get around it. Okay? You're not gonna get around this destruction that's getting ready to come. All right. Sirach chapter 10, verse 7 says, pride is hateful before the Most High and man, and by both does one commit iniquity. Right? Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such a one setteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth, he casts away his bowels. And that's what we see this place has done, man. You know, that's what we see that this person has done. Okay? It says, the physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king, tomorrow shall die. For when a man is dead, he shall inherit creeping things, beasts, and worms. The beginning of pride is when one departed from the Most High, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. And that's why we live in a society that's filled with nothing but idol worship, decadence, and debauchery. You know, the Most High is not in the thoughts of the people of this earth. That's why the Most High is getting prepared to send fire. All right. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly. The Lord shall cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. The Lord hath plucked up the roots of the proud nations and planted the lowly in their place. The Lord overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. Okay? So that's what we're getting prepared to see, man. There's not going to be some transition to some new gold-backed currency society. And if you bought some gold and you protected you hedged yourself against, the inflation that's getting ready to come against the dollar, and you're going to be the savior of your family. No. They're going to switch into this digital system. They're going to want to chip everybody. And then the nations are going to fight. And that's going to be it. And flames is going to consume this place, man. But we're getting extremely close to something. I thought that was very, very intriguing. Like I said, go and watch this. GMS. What is the 666 Mark II GMS Truth? Apostle Elder Apostle Tahar. He did this earlier today. Great stream. I guarantee you will enjoy it. But with that, man, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to touch on this part with gold and them getting ready to audit Fort Knox and just gold prices in general, how they've been moving, especially since the beginning of 2023. So, these elites, they're getting ready to move, man. So just like Apostle Tahar said, man, we could be months away from something. We could be months away from I'm talking about some major world events. Historical events, man, biblical events. So, Lord willing, that was edifying with that. I'm gonna say, call hello, Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shah Bashim, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you. I came out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, sincere, in truth, shalom.